Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Have you ever met someone whose face looks like a still lake? No ripples, no storms, just quiet. You'd swear nothing is happening in there. Here's what nobody tells you. A still lake isn't empty. It's just hiding the current underneath. And the people who look the calmest on the outside are very often the ones carrying the loudest world on the inside. Picture a phone that's been switched to low power mode. The screen goes dim. It looks like it's barely doing anything. But underneath that dark screen, 20 tabs are still open. Messages are still loading. Notifications are still stacking up, silently, one after another. That's not overthinking. That's not a flaw in the wiring. Psychology has a name for this. It calls them deep thinkers. And today, we're going to open up that dim screen and show you everything running underneath it. By the end of this video, you might realize this superpower has been quietly running in the background of your own life for years without you ever giving it a name. If this sounds like you or someone you love, stay until the end. There's something I need to say to you directly. A deep thinker's mind is built differently, and it starts with something psychologists call latent inhibition. Think of it as your brain's bouncer. Its job is to stand at the door of your attention and decide what gets in and what gets turned away. For most people, that bouncer is strict. Walk into a busy airport lounge, and the bouncer filters out the hum of the espresso machine, the flicker of the departure board, the stranger clearing his throat 2 seats over. Your brain hands you one clean thought: find my gate. But for a deep thinker, that bouncer barely works at all. Everything gets let in. The flicker, the throat clear. The way the barista's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Their sensitivity setting isn't turned up by choice. It's just built low. And that changes everything about how they experience the world, including you. When you talk to a deep thinker, you probably think you're just talking, sharing information, trading words back and forth. You're only giving them 10% of the story. The other 90%? That's the half-second delay before you answered, "I'm fine." That's the way your eyes drop to your phone right when they mention their promotion. That's a small, almost invisible flicker in your voice that, to anyone else, would mean absolutely nothing. To a deep thinker, that flicker isn't nothing. It might be doubt. It might be discomfort. Or it might connect instantly and painfully to the exact tone your mother used 3 years ago, right before she said something that broke your heart. They are reading you the way a translator reads a language most people never learn to speak. And that is precisely why they come home so tired. Their exhaustion has nothing to do with how much they moved today. It has everything to do with how much they absorbed. Their nervous system doesn't get an off switch. It runs hot all day, every day, taking in the data the rest of the world was never built to notice. Most people move through life like it's a straight road. You start, you enjoy the drive, and you let the future arrive whenever it decides to. Deep thinkers don't get that luxury. Their minds jump straight to the destination, even while they're still standing at the starting line. Imagine someone signing an offer letter for a dream remote job. A normal reaction is pure excitement. Better pay, flexible hours, a team that seems friendly on the video call. But a deep thinker, in that same onboarding call, is already 3 steps ahead. They notice the manager interrupts one teammate but never the other. They clock the tiny tension when someone mentions unlimited PTO and nobody laughs. Before they've even set up their company email, some quiet part of their mind has already sketched the shape of the burnout that's coming in month 9, and maybe even the resignation letter they haven't written yet. It isn't pessimism. It's pattern recognition running 20 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. And then there's love, which might be the most complicated arena of all. When a deep thinker falls for someone, it is never a simple, single feeling. In the same breath where they feel their chest go warm looking into someone's eyes, some other part of them is already quietly grieving. They understand, on a cellular level, how fragile human promises really are. They can sense, weeks into a relationship, exactly where their partner's old wounds might one day collide with their own. They are falling in love in the present tense while mourning an ending that hasn't happened yet and may never happen at all. Doesn't that sound exhausting? It is. But don't mistake it for pessimism. Deep thinkers are not pessimists. They are what we'd call hyperrealists. People who look at life exactly as it is, without the soft filter most of us use to get through the day. They rehearse the worst-case scenario in advance, not because they enjoy suffering, but because being blindsided feels far worse than being prepared. They don't experience one moment at a time. They live inside a moving timeline, where the past casts a shadow and the future hums quietly in the background of everything they do. That's part of why it's so hard for them to simply relax into a moment. Try enjoying a sunset when part of your brain is already narrating the exact chemical process by which the sky will go dark. That kind of clarity comes at a cost. And often, that cost is loneliness. But the loneliness of a deep thinker isn't the loneliness of someone with no friends. Here's how I want you to picture it. Imagine most people are boats, sailing happily across the surface of the ocean, catching the wind, enjoying the sunshine, laughing with the other boats sailing beside them. That's small talk. That's how was your weekend? Cute shoes. Can you believe this weather? A deep thinker isn't a boat. They're a lighthouse, standing still, watching everything, scanning every wave for what's coming, feeling every storm from miles away before anyone else even sees the clouds. And the tragic part? A lighthouse can stand in the middle of a busy harbor, surrounded by hundreds of boats, and still feel like the only one who's truly alone. Not because nobody is near, but because nobody else is standing where they're standing, seeing what they're seeing. They can be in a room of 50 people at a party, phone buzzing with messages, and still feel a loneliness so deep it aches in their bones. Not because people are absent, because understanding is absent. A deep thinker will try, again and again, to wave the boats over. Come closer. Let's talk about something real. And more often than not, the boats wave back cheerfully and sail on. Because who wants to leave the sunshine for the deep, cold water below? Their language, the language of meaning and depth, becomes a language almost nobody else speaks fluently. You can't discuss the psychology of childhood conditioning with someone who just wants to know what's for dinner. So small talk doesn't just bore them. It actively drains them. Performing normal is, for a deep thinker, one of the most tiring roles they'll ever play. But hand them a real conversation. 3 a.m, phone battery dying, talking about fear and meaning and what it's all for with someone who finally gets it. And you've just handed them the most powerful stimulant on earth. No 5-star vacation comes close. They're not selective because they think they're better than anyone. They're selective because their whole system simply cannot afford to spend its limited energy on anything shallow. Now, don't romanticize this too fast, because deep thinking has a shadow side, and it's called analysis paralysis. Here's what that actually looks like. Someone gets a simple text from a close friend. Hey, you good? A normal person types, yeah, all good. You? And moves on with their day. A deep thinker stares at that message for 11 minutes. Wait, why is she asking? Did I seem off yesterday? Should I say yeah or yup? If I use a period, will that sound cold? Should I add an exclamation mark so I don't sound distant? Or will that seem fake? What if she's actually going through something and just needs an opening to talk? And if I answer too casually, she'll feel like she can't tell me. 4 retyped drafts later, they finally hit send on a message that took less than 4 seconds to read, and they feel completely wrung out. That's analysis paralysis. So many possible meanings branching out from one small moment that choosing any single path starts to feel impossible. And it doesn't stay in the present. Deep thinkers are also masters at replaying the past. You know that moment right before sleep when your brain suddenly resurrects something faintly embarrassing you said in a group chat 2 years ago? For a deep thinker, that's not an occasional event. That's a nightly rerun, played in painful high definition, searching for proof that they were somehow the villain of a story nobody else even remembers. Underneath almost everything we've talked about is one deep, quiet fear, being misunderstood. Because their thoughts carry so many layers, deep thinkers are terrified that the wrong word will flatten something they meant with their whole heart. That's why their messages often arrive as long paragraphs, stacked with footnotes, softeners, and just to be clear clauses. It might be exhausting to read. Trust me, it is far more exhausting to write, word by careful word, hoping this time, finally, they'll be understood exactly as they meant to be. So what does all of this suffering buy them? A kind of vision that no algorithm has been able to replicate. While most of us are stuck inside the maze, hands on the walls, feeling our way forward one turn at a time, deep thinkers are somehow floating above it. They don't just see the walls of the maze. They see the whole shape of it at once. They can watch how ants build a colony and, an hour later, redesign the org chart for their small business. They can listen to a piece of classical music and see, in their mind, the exact rhythm of a rising and falling stock chart. Their brain refuses to keep knowledge in separate boxes. Psychology bleeds into design. Biology bleeds into storytelling. History bleeds into the way they raise their children. It's no accident that so many of history's great scientists and inventors describe minds that work exactly like this. Spending hours running entire experiments in their imagination long before ever touching the real materials, willing to sit inside chaos and uncertainty until a hidden order finally reveals itself. That restlessness, that refusal to settle for the surface, is often the very same engine behind real innovation. They may feel more than most people ever will, but because of that, they also see further than most people ever will. And somewhere inside that paradox, real creativity is born. If your chest just got a little tight because you recognize yourself somewhere in all of this, I want you to hear this next part slowly. What you need right now is not more understanding, not another book, not another 5-step plan to fix yourself, because you are never broken. What you might actually need is permission to stop steering for a while. You don't always have to be the lighthouse, scanning every wave on the horizon. Sometimes your thoughts get loud, not because something is wrong with you, but because you've been running at full capacity for far too long without rest. Picture your mind as a room, and right now, a storm is moving through it. You don't have to chase down every paper flying off the table. You don't have to slam every window shut. You are allowed to simply sit down in the middle of the floor, close your eyes, and let the wind move around you. Let the thoughts blow through. Let the anxiety make noise. You don't have to pick any of it up. You don't have to explain where the storm came from or what it's trying to teach you today. Some days, the most sacred thing you can do is let everything pass without demanding a single conclusion from it. I'm not asking you to think less, because that was never who you are. I'm asking you to let yourself think without needing a destination. Let your thoughts drift like clouds while you simply watch the sky, instead of gripping the wind and trying to control which direction it blows. So put the weapons down. Stop fighting the parts of your mind that never asked to be this loud. You are allowed to just be a tired human being tonight. That, on its own, is enough. I want to leave you with this. We live in a world addicted to speed. 15-second videos, same-day delivery, swipe left, swipe right, decide in half a second, and move on. Everything is engineered to reward the fast and the shallow. In a culture like that, deep thinkers get quietly labeled as too much, too sensitive, too intense, too complicated for a world that just wants everyone to keep scrolling. But sensitivity was never the flaw. Deep thinking was never a disorder waiting to be cured. In a world that is losing its patience for anything real, this way of seeing might be one of the last things keeping us honest. True intelligence was never about having the fastest answer. It's about being able to hold the full, messy complexity of being human without needing to shrink it down into something simple and forgettable. It's about staring straight at the ugliest parts of life and still choosing, on purpose, to look for meaning inside them. So if you're a deep thinker watching this right now, here is my one request. Stop apologizing. Stop saying sorry for needing a moment to answer. Stop saying sorry for asking the hard question nobody else wanted to ask. Stop shrinking the entire universe living inside your mind just to fit into a box that was never built for you in the first place. This world is loud, but it is starving for depth. And it needs people who don't just glance at things, but actually see them. If anything in this video felt like someone quietly stepped inside your mind and turned the lights on, You are not alone. There is an entire community of us watching this exact video right now, feeling exactly what you're feeling. Tell me in the comments, what's the most exhausting part of thinking this deeply? And what's the most beautiful part it's ever given you? I read every single one. And if this found you at the right moment, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and say it with me. I am reclaiming my peace. I'll see you in the next one.